What is happening here is not modern day at all. We are past the times of invasions and empires. This is the 21st century.
On March 11, 2014, Crimea votes to be independent from Ukraine. Of the 80% of that vote, 95% of Crimeans wish to be free from Ukraine. The very next day, Russia adopts Crimea into the Russian Federation. Controversy arises as to whether the vote was legal or not. There was no international recognition present at the vote, other than Russia. Ukraine had just been through many riots and pro-Russian assaults. Russia arms Crimea with attack choppers, tanks, military personnel, and the Black Fleet, the Russian Navy. It seems as if Russia is gearing up for war. On March 19th, a UN meeting is held, discussing the Crimean referendum. All countries but Russia vote the referendum as unconstitutional. Russia's ally, China, does not choose to vote on the subject. Speeches are held begging Russia to back down, but Russia truly believes that they have the right to Crimea. Crimea has always been a strongly wanted piece of land for Ukraine and Russia. Over the years, Russia had been through many governments, and never stayed with one for long. The longest government that Crimea was with was the Crimean Autonomous Soviet Socialist Republic, starting on December 5th, 1936, meaning that they were a part of the Soviet Union. When the Soviet Union crashed, Crimea was traded over to Ukraine in 1991. Crimea has been a part of Ukraine ever since.
You can't entirely blame Russia for the doing of this crisis. As a matter of fact, it did belong to the Soviet Union for over 50 years. That's 50 years that Crimeans were actually Russians. And over the years, the Russian population boomed to over 1 million. Even now, during the crisis, and during the time that Crimea was part of Ukraine, there exists 1,500,000 Russians. And compared to that, 350,000 Ukrainians. So Crimea belongs just as much or even more to Russia than Ukraine. And Ukraine is the one trying to start this war. People think Russia is the bad guy, but do they know how this all started? Do they know what the trigger was for the crisis?
President Viktor Yanukovych ratifies the agreement to extend the Russian lease in Sevastopol. This agreement allows the Russians to harbor the Russian Black Fleet in the port until 2042. This agreement brought on anger by the West Ukrainians. Ukrainians who wished to grow closer ties with the West, such as the US, Britain, and France. Eggs were thrown, gas bombs exploded, and protests broke out. Rumors surfaced that Yanukovych was secretly working with Russia, and he was soon ousted and he fled to Russia.
Viktor Yanukovych may have been working with Russia, but everything that he did was to help Crimea. Crimea was in the ditch at the time, and the money that Russia brought into Sevastopol helped the country greatly. The Ukrainian parliament was a part of this agreement, but what it did was anger the West Ukrainians. You see, there's two sides to Ukraine. There's the West Russians, who want the Americans to bring in all their companies and pretty much industrialize all of Crimea. And then there's the East Ukrainians, who want closer ties with the Russians, who would bring in their companies, but most importantly, the oil industry.
After President Viktor Yanukovych is ran out of the country, Alexander Turknov is then declared acting president of Ukraine, and Russia believes him to be self-proclaimed. In the capital of Crimea, Simferopol, pro-Europeans including Crimean Ukrainians, Tatars, and European Unionists held rallies and waved flags, celebrating the rise of the new Ukrainian authorities. Meanwhile, in Sevastopol, the city with the Russian Black Fleet, tens of thousands of pro-Russian Crimeans protest against the new authorities. These protesters were angered that they had no part in the new Ukrainian government and believed that they should not have to pay taxes toward the state. They shouted, "Putin is our president!" Protesters tried to replace the Crimean flag with Russian flags. Fights ensued over the flagpole. Russian convoys were said to be spotted in the area. On February 24th, all laws that the new Ukrainian government placed were now adopted into Crimea. Now the separatists have moved to Ukraine. Slavyansk, a city on the eastern border of Ukraine, contains hundreds of separatist rebels. This city has become a battle zone. Shelling, gunfire, and death covers the city. But not only is it Eastern and pro-Russian forces that are rebelling, it is also the Western Ukrainians.
The laws being adopted into Crimea, this is what started the movement. In less than 2 weeks, protesters and unmarked forces take control of Crimea and all its entrances into the country. These forces are stated to be pro-Russian rebels, but they seem to be Russian forces.
Now this is where the Russians get sketchy.
Why are they sending forces into Crimea, especially this early on? We can't tell if they were the reason for the whole thing, but we know for sure they have something to do with it. When Crimea has their own referendum to depart from Ukraine, Russian forces are also there. They were not spotted harassing anyone into voting, but you never know with the Russians. But what I do know so far is that there are many Crimeans that do wish to depart from Ukraine and join up with Russia. And on March 18th, Russia adopts Crimea into the Russian Republic. Get this under control, we don't know what will happen. World War III, or it could just be another civil war, but we have to get it under control. This needs to be finished quickly, It's just getting out of hand. All these rebellions, these deaths. The numbers are rising too quickly. It has to be stopped. We need to do everything we can to help.